my very great pleasure to welcome Alison Coutinho today. She'll explain a little bit about the What Now collaborative. Her talk's going to be 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have a little discussion here, and then after lunch at 2 o'clock, I'll mention it again at the end, but after lunch at 2 o'clock, we'll meet up in UH213 for a more detailed discussion for any of you who want to spend another hour or so talking about the issues raised in the talk. So can we give a warm welcome to Alison?
Thank you. So I was to be talking to you today about the dilemmas of the next generation architect, with using What Now to tell you a bit about our collaborative as well as our events to explore the subject of the future. So there are three people in the What Now collaborative: me, Dan Slavinsky, and Wei-Shin Lee. We all bring really specific attributes to the team, and part of what I want to talk about today is how change can happen with very, very few people. So we all play to our strengths, keeping the team very small so that decision making is made between all of us. But we all have the same desire to change the profession, to challenge it, to explore it. And we work with networks, our own networks and the networks we've built as a collaborative. And through working together, we weren't friends originally, but we actually met through introductions. We've become friends and now have a shared vision. So just to introduce the sort of dynamics between the three of us, Dan, who I'd describe as the hippie, he brings a sort of artistic vision to all of our projects. And when things get really boring, he still tries to think very laterally. And that's part of how we work, where there can be very boring technical aspects to the work we do. And then Dan comes along and suggests something completely off the wall. He has a very artistic approach to everything he does, including his education, which has been very widely published. He's actually, despite being the hippie, is the most qualified amongst us as well. As for me, I've done my part 1 and my part 2 as well, sort of debating the benefits of doing part 3 at the moment, the benefits of being qualified, but also just doing what I want to do without being qualified. I actually have a degree in landscape architecture as well, and I did a diploma in interior design. So I'm big on multidisciplinary type of work. I've been involved with the profession since my first year. I started working with the RIBA. I was a diarist for them, and then I got roped into sitting on what I thought would be really boring professional institution councils like the ACA, the Association of Consultant Architects. Actually turned out to be very, very interesting and has opened me up to fantastic opportunities, of which the What Now Collaborative has formed. I now sit on things like the RIBA validation panel, the library committee, etc. And for all three of us, we witnessed a huge change when we were studying. And rather than sitting and watching it happen, we've wanted to engage with it. So I'm also responsible for the kind of day-to-day aspects, looking at the website, checking emails. The third guy is Wei, and I'd call him the essential socialite. He was actually brought in midway through our first project. He's got a fantastic awareness for marketing and PR. And even though he did his part 1, he realized his talents were in valuing good design through marketing and PR. And he's now head of marketing for Design, who our websites many of you might be aware of. It's the biggest online design magazine out there, which is still very engaged in the design field. So our approach is about forming long-lasting partnerships, and partnerships that can be explored and fostered, that is more than just providing a service. When we approach practices and institutions, we don't ask them to sort of grant us a favour and do us a deal because they're being kind. We see every collaboration as working together for mutual benefits that can be very long-lasting, and we can help them influence their outreach and vice versa. There's also something about the power of three, and the three of us are so different, but yet we can keep clarifying our objectives and letting ourselves evolve. So we set up in November 2011, something like 14 months ago. This is our Christmas card from last year that just marks some of our achievements, which we've sort of done with very limited resources, no money behind us whatsoever, and having full-time jobs, so doing all of this kind of stuff in the evening. So the collaborative host of events, we're very, very loose, so it's quite hard to define ourselves. We run events of different shapes and sizes, and I'll just use 3 today to talk through this idea of the next generation architect. The first event was an exhibition in a crypt with 300 people. The second was a debate at the RIBA with just 120 people. And the third I'll use was a debate in a pub with 40 people. You can see the idea of scale. And through that, we will look at the dilemmas for the profession, the dilemmas within education, and then the dilemmas for the environment. So the first project was a commission from the president of the Association of Consultant Architects, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, that I sit on council for. The president happened to mentor Dan and recommended we got in touch, and I happened to meet him on a staircase of a house party whilst I was at university. We got taken to this church. It's a John Soane church in Marylebone in London, and we were offered the church space. We had a little look round with the idea of having maybe a graduate exhibition. The church was very nice, but we were actually wowed by the crypt. It's a space rarely seen by the public. It's Grade 1 listed, and has really unusual double arches, as you can see, and very chunky columns that we thought we could work with. So we were asked to have host some sort of graduate exhibition for maybe a couple of days long, and we realised it could be so much more. So there are some really major issues. I don't know if you are sort of aware of some of these facing the recession, facing the profession, such as the recession that's hit us all now, but also questioning the role of the RIBA, the ARB, and particularly the number of qualifying architects out there, the number of students looking for jobs, low salaries, the long working hours. I don't know if these are issues you've started to discover now, whether you wish you'd known when you were first applying for university, as well as the sort of general change and the general shift that we're facing with new technologies coming in. So the exhibition was called The Architect What Now? It was supposed to be a very neutral event with a very neutral title, held in August 2011. We managed to negotiate the crypt that's normally leased out at £10,000 a night for nothing. That's part of how we work, achieve great things and have huge ambitions and just try to get close to making that happen. But we still had to cover security, insurance, printing, and then the everyday aspects of procuring something like this. And so we thought we'd just phone up practices and randomly ask them for money, and through trial and error realised that that's destined to fail. Instead, we started to develop relationships with practices, talking to them more about the profession, trying to engage with them, and with asking for a little bit of money, managed to give them great advertising space, etc. But it enabled something that should have cost £15,000 to happen. We also commissioned a bunch of friends and artists to display painting, sculpture, sound and film to explore this issue of the future of the architect, the future of the profession. This is a drawing by Dan. It's very conceptually looking at how the architect's role might change in the future and how the architect will need to adapt with emerging technologies. Other artwork included romantic notions of what the architect was and a celebration of the architect. It's not all doom and gloom. We were really keen to know what other people think, particularly architects already established in practice, and what they think versus students like you and I. So we launched a worldwide initiative, again thinking really big. Initially it was just going to be within England, but then we went worldwide with this. And it was called Answers on a Postcard. We asked people to define the architect today and define the architect in 50 years' time and draw it on a postcard, of which I've brought enough for all of you today. We'd be very keen to hear your thoughts and see your thoughts. So where are we going? We received postcards